In the midst of the Pacific conflict during World War II, a unique force emerged to thwart the Japanese forces. The Navajo Code Talkers, drawing upon their native language given to them by the holy people, the Nebazad, crafted an unbreakable code that became an invaluable asset to the U.S. military. These remarkable individuals embraced their role as guardians of information. With their language as the foundation, they confounded the enemy, translating military commands and strategic details into a code that remained impenetrable. Their bond went beyond the battlefield. In the years that followed, these code talkers upheld a unique tradition. They referred to one another not by names, but by their Navajo clan relationships. "That's my uncle, my brother, my nephew," echoed within their conversations, a testament to the familial connections forged through their shared experiences. Their unity and dedication, both as warriors and a close-knit family, left an indelible mark on the annals of history.
When people talk about our people, the Ne, of course, they are talking about Navajo, and that's a more recent name. But the Ne are known for their silversmithing and their Navajo rugs and the various arts and craft baskets and so on. But the other thing that people all over the world know is the Navajo Code Talkers, a unique group of men. The Code Talkers have a very special place in the actual history of the Ne. You have to understand that they use a language that they were trying to be forced to forget and to never use again. And as these young men, when they were children, would go into these government schools or even some kind of church-operated educational system, they were encouraged not to speak the language. And sometimes they were subjected to severe punishment, and that to make them not speak the language. But when World War II came around, and the bombing of Pearl Harbor in 1941, it didn't take very long for the messages and combat situations were not being received, and the codes and that were being used was being broken constantly by the Japanese people. And so as the war progressed, and within just a few months, because of the lack of an effective code on the part of the United States military, they lost Guam and Wake Island and Midway and all these strategic places and that on the Pacific Ocean. And so the call went out, of course. It had been suggested some time before, but they went ahead and made a special effort to recruit Navajo men. But the other thing that a lot of times people are not aware is that the United States Marine Corps is a very elite group of men. And the only Marine you would see, of course, is the Mulagana, which would be the white man. And it was that those were the Marines. But when they recruited the Navajo to become code talkers, they took and changed the way that they recruited. And so in that regard, history was made when they brought in the Navajos on that to become a part of the United States Marine Corps. And the people that were recruited, there were 30 of them, Navajos right off the reservation. And many of them, they were very young. And I've known many of these men in later years when they were elderly. And then I became friends with a number of them. In fact, one of them I was employed under as when they were chairman of the Navajo tribe. And then I've had many of them at different times. You know, I was employed with them and I worked with them in different projects. And so that gave me the opportunity to have a lot of contact with the Code Talkers. I've had the opportunity to attend ceremonies with them. I've had the opportunity to be in the sweat lodges with many of them. And I learned a lot of the things that they experienced while they were in the military during World War II as code talkers. But the one thing that they were always willing to share with me is the idea that the holy people watched over them, and all of them that I knew of, and that carried the corn pollen pouch and used the corn pollen, and they had their prayers and that in the language of our people, and all of them pretty much had a protection way ceremony before they went into the military, or they had special ceremonies performed for them, because a lot of these men themselves grew up with grandparents and parents that were medicine people back in those days. But every one of these Navajo Code Talker, Navajo Marines came out with honor and that, but they were never honored until some almost 30 years after the war, because the things that they were involved with as far as having a code that they knew how to use in combat was really something. And the code was developed, of course, over in Camp Pendleton, or near Camp Pendleton. And they went through the whole training program, the basic training, boot camp, and advanced training, and then a special communications. And so it was that they developed the code. The Navajo language is a non-written language. It's an oral language. It's unwritten. And it's considered the most complicated language in the world. And you have to be able to speak it probably from childhood, to speak it the way it should be spoken. And the development of a code, they developed a way to have alphabet, and they had names for all of the different military ornaments and various calibers of rounds, and the various ships, and the other armaments and that they had to give names to. And so when they began to communicate over the open airways, the Japanese were completely lost as to what these people were talking about. The Code Talkers participated in every major act that they had to do to reclaim back all of the grounds and that were taken by the Japanese, all the way from the very first one, which would be at Guadalcanal. And they understood what had to be done. And then as they progressed, an island hopped all the way over to Iwo Jima. But even after Iwo Jima, they had to continue on to Okinawa. And all along the way, they found out that the Japanese people were dug in, and they were going to hold the islands at any cost. In combat situation, when the landing took place on these islands, it was always that the Navajo Code Talker had to be with the very first group. When they took Iwo Jima, for example, they had to send, in the first 48 hours, they had to send over 800 messages. And it's reported that in that 48 hours, of those 800 or more messages, every one of them was completely correct. There was no error in any of those messages. But they also had several divisions, and so every division had code talkers, and that with the forward area, and they sent messages. So it's quite reasonable to understand that there were over 2,000 messages and that were sent by the Navajo Code Talkers when they were in the first 48 hours on Iwo Jima, and not one of them had any error at all in the messages. And so the commanders always have commented that without the Navajo Code Talkers, Iwo Jima would have never been taken, and that's probably true. And it was a strategic location, because in order to deliver the atomic bombs to Japan, to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, they had to have the airport that was on Iwo Jima. And so they were willing to take and do everything that they could to take that island. And then, of course, they advance on into Japan. And their story is very much fascinating. I'm proud of the Navajo Code Talkers. And all of the ones I have ever met, I could not help but say, I love these men. You know, when you take that oath, that you will defend the United States Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, when you are never released from that. And I know when they had the code word, you know, when they put up the flag on the top of Mount Suribacha on Iwo Jima, they were so happy when the message in the Navajo Code Talker message was sent, but not the, which would be to say Suribachi is secure. And but it is that they were all so happy. But they still had another 2 or 3 weeks in that of fighting before they would actually completely have taken Iwo Jima. But these men are good men, and so many of them are gone. So the families and that, the Navajo people, these men are related to all of us. And it's important to recognize that you, as a Dene, you're related to these men. They're great men. And they knew what they were signing up for. And that's the thing about a Marine.
Hey, thanks for watching our videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. Also, head over to our website, NavajoTraditionalTeachings.com. Sign up for our email list. Ahead.